It's hard to believe, that we're starting this deep dive with with such sad news, really. The Vivienne's passing, I mean, she was only 32. It's left a lot of us, I think, in shock and disbelief, honestly. So today we're going to look back at their life and their career. And we've got a ton of news articles to pull from, since the announcement. You probably know the Vivienne as the winner of the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK.
Right.
But we're going to try to uncover a lot more about their life than just that. We're going to talk about where that unique drag persona came from, their impact on entertainment, and LGBTQ plus advocacy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a heartbreaking loss. And the Vivienne's journey, it deserves a closer look. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Beyond just what we see in the headlines.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's start with the name, the Vivienne. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? The articles that we have mention a connection to a pretty iconic fashion designer. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, of course. So the Vivienne was a huge fan of Vivienne Westwood. She's that British designer that's known for her kind of rebellious punk aesthetic.
Yeah.
Those really bold designs. And choosing that name wasn't just about fashion, though. For them, it was a statement about their own persona as a drag artist.
Yeah.
Daring and unconventional, always pushing those boundaries.
And they definitely pushed those boundaries with their drag style. One article described it as a scouse wife who has come into money, moved to LA, and blown it all, and then had to move back to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, scouse refers to people from Liverpool, England, and their distinct culture. It's known for its wit, dry humor, which the Vivienne really embodied in their act. I mean, you can practically picture that character.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so vivid and specific. And beyond the look, the Vivienne had an incredible comedic talent. I mean, they were really renowned for their amazing vocal impersonation.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Oh, think like Kim Woodburn. She was the sharp-tongued cleaning expert from How Clean Is Your House? Or Cilla Black, who was the beloved, Liverpudlian singer.
Yeah.
And TV presenter.
Wow.
They even did Donald Trump.
Wait, they could do Trump. That's wild.
Yeah.
What made their impersonation so good? Was it just getting the voice right?
It was so much more than that. They had this uncanny ability to capture mannerisms, all those little nuances that really make each person so unique. And they weren't just like mimicking, they were embodying these characters.
Yeah.
And bringing them to life with this like comedic flair that was so infectious.
I bet. Their comedic timing must have been perfect too. So, speaking of timing, let's talk about their rise to fame. Winning that first season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK back in 2019. That must have been huge for them.
Oh, it was monumental. Not just for their career, but for the UK drag scene as a whole. You could feel the excitement, the anticipation leading up to that first season. And the Vivienne completely stole the show from the start.
Yeah, I remember watching that finale. I was blown away by that lip sync performance to Wham's I'm Your Man.
Yeah.
That was pure magic. They commanded that stage with such confidence and charisma. You could tell a star was born right there.
You really could.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that performance really cemented their place in drag history because it showed not just their lip sync skills, but also their ability to like connect with the audience, on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And they kept going.
They didn't stop there. All Stars, Dancing on Ice, they placed third on Dancing on Ice, which is not easy. It takes real skill and athleticism to do that. It's clear they were multi-talented, not just a drag queen.
Absolutely. They weren't content with just being, a drag queen. They really wanted to conquer all forms of entertainment.
Wow.
And, we can't forget their theater credits. Playing the Child Catcher and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on tour, and then taking on the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz, both on tour and in the West End, which, is basically London's Broadway. The Vivienne was such a force on stage.
Yeah, and they even popped up in Absolutely Fabulous, the movie, and that British soap opera, Emmerdale. It's incredible how diverse their career was. But, looking at all these articles, more than their accomplishments, what stands out to me is the love and admiration from other drag artists. Celebrities, fans. It says a lot about them as a person.
You're right. The tributes have been so heartfelt. RuPaul called them a beacon of creativity and authenticity, which I think really gets at their spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle Visage's tribute was so touching. She talked about the Vivienne's infectious laughter and wit, their friendship.
Yeah.
It's clear that this loss is deeply felt by so many.
Yeah. Even the BBC, who aired Drag Race UK, put out a statement about how proud they were of the Vivienne's achievements and contributions to the drag community. It's clear they were more than just an entertainer. They represented something to people, a symbol for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. And it's actually really fascinating that the Vivienne's impact, it went beyond just entertainment. They were really willing to be open about their personal struggles. And that added another layer to their story that resonated with a lot of people.
You're talking about their openness about their past struggles with drug addiction on Drag Race. That must have been hard to share publicly.
It must have been. Absolutely. But in doing so, the Vivienne helped to, break down the stigma around addiction, especially in the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, and I read that some viewers reached out to say that the Vivienne actually inspired them to get help for their own addiction. And their advice to parents who were struggling to accept their LGBTQ plus children, it was so powerful, emphasizing love and support. It's clear that they weren't afraid to be vulnerable, and that created some really meaningful connections with people.
It really did. It takes courage to be that open and honest, especially on such a big platform like Drag Race. And the Vivienne's story helped to foster dialogue, and create a more compassionate space for LGBTQ plus individuals facing similar challenges.
It's a powerful reminder that even those who seem to have it all can still struggle with their own demons. But in the Vivienne's case, they used their platform to raise awareness, offer support, and inspire others.
And that's something worth celebrating. But there is another aspect of the Vivienne story that I think we should address, and it's difficult.
You mean the hate crime that they experienced earlier this year? It's a reminder that that the LGBTQ plus community still faces a lot of challenges and dangers.
It was a horrible event. This man, Alan Whitfield, he targeted the Vivienne in this homophobic attack. It's a sobering reminder that even someone as beloved and as celebrated as the Vivienne wasn't immune to hate and bigotry.
It's awful. But even with that adversity, the Vivienne showed so much strength, and resilience. One article quoted them as saying they could take a punch, which speaks to their character of fighter, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, their response to that incident is a testament to their resilience and their refusal to be silenced by hate. And it raises an important question. How do we fight against prejudice like that and create a world where everyone feels safe and accepted?
That's a question we'll have to keep asking ourselves as we look at the Vivienne's legacy. It's a heavy topic, but one that deserves our attention.
Absolutely. The Vivienne story, it's a complex mix of triumph and tragedy, but it's ultimately a story of resilience and authenticity, the power of using your voice to make a difference.
Yeah, it is hard to think that, someone who brought so much joy to the world could also be the target of such senseless hatred. It's just awful. But I do think we should focus on all the good, all their accomplishments and the positive impact that they had. As we go through this deep dive, let's try to shift back to the Vivienne's amazing talent, their ability to make people laugh.
That's a great point. It's important to remember the joy amidst all this sadness. You mentioned their hilarious description of their drag persona, that whole Scouse housewife bit, which really shows their comedic genius.
It does. It's such a specific, vivid picture, and you can just see it immediately. Oh, and their vocal impersonations. I mean, the range from Kim Woodburn to Cilla Black, even Trump is it's unbelievable.
What's so fascinating to me is how they would weave that humor into serious conversations. They'd have you laughing one minute, and then the next you're contemplating some really deep societal issue. To connect with people on different levels like that, it's a rare talent.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the laughs, though. They used their humor to, open doors, get people thinking about things.
Absolutely. Never shying away from pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
And challenging those, challenging conventions. But they did it with such wit and such charm that it was disarming and thought-provoking at the same time.
Yeah. And their time on Drag Race is a perfect example of that. I mean, they walked in with this larger-than-life personality and all this undeniable talent. And then they surprised everyone by talking about, their struggles with addiction. And it added this whole other, level to their story. It let them connect with people in this really deep way.
It shows how brave they were.
Yeah.
And authentic. It takes a lot to be that vulnerable on such a public platform. But by telling their story, they helped a lot of people. They helped to destigmatize addiction. Especially in the LGBTQ plus community.
For sure. The articles mention, tons of fans who said they felt seen. and understood. And they felt like they could finally ask for help because the Vivienne was honest about it. That kind of impact goes way beyond just entertainment.
Totally. It shows how important representation is
Yeah.
and the power it has to inspire others, you know, give them hope. When you see someone you admire, someone who looks like they have it all, and they're open about their struggles, it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. And it wasn't just personal struggles either. Vivienne was also a huge advocate for, acceptance and understanding, especially for young LGBTQ plus people. Their advice to parents of LGBTQ plus kids was really powerful. Telling them to just love and support their children no matter what.
And that message had so much weight because it came from someone who would live it. They knew how hard it was to deal with society's expectations and find your own way. And they wanted to use their experience to help others, make it a little easier for them.
Yeah. Which makes it even harder to think that, someone who spent their life spreading love and acceptance was the victim of a hate crime. That incident was really disturbing, and it reminds us that there's still a long way to go when it comes to equality.
It does. And it's a reminder that progress doesn't always go in a straight line. There are always going to be people and groups filled with prejudice and intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, it can come out in some really terrible ways.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, but there's still so much to do to stop hate and make a world where everyone can feel safe and respected.
It's a lot to process, especially when you think about how vibrant and full of life the Vivienne was. Reading their final Instagram post where they shared highlights from the past year and talked about all the things they were excited about in the future. It was really, really something.
It is bittersweet, yeah. That caption, what a year it's been. Here's to reaching new heights and achieving dreams in 25, really showed their optimism and their zest for life.
It really does. It's like they're reminding all of us to appreciate every moment, to make the most of the time we have. The Vivienne's legacy, it's complex,
Yeah.
full of both light and darkness. But ultimately, it's about being true to yourself and using your voice to make a difference.
You said that perfectly. Their legacy is all about challenging norms, inspiring others, and creating a world that's more inclusive and compassionate.
And although they're gone, the impact they had will continue to inspire people for a long time.
Yeah, their final Instagram post, it really made me think. It's like a message to live life to the max, to chase after your dreams,
Yeah.
because you never know what's going to happen.
It does make you think, especially knowing how their life was cut short. And brings us to another part of the Vivienne's legacy, how fearless they were. I mean, they took every opportunity that came their way, winning Drag Race, taking on those challenging roles in the theater. They weren't afraid to push themselves and go outside their comfort zone. And by doing that, they inspired so many others. I think that's a big part of what they leave behind, encouraging people to be bold, to be creative, to just be themselves and not apologize for it.
What's amazing to me is how they were able to navigate fame and stay true to themselves. They weren't afraid to say what they thought, even if it was controversial. But they always did it in their own way, with wit and charm.
Yeah, they were unapologetically themselves, and that's what made them so relatable, so endearing. They were one of a kind.
And their legacy will definitely live on, inspiring so many. Drag performers, LGBTQ plus individuals. They showed the world that you can achieve your dreams, you can break down those barriers and make a real difference, all while staying true to who you are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Vivienne's life and career, what are the main things you take away from all this? What can we all learn from their story?
I think for me, it's about embracing what makes us different, celebrating our differences and fighting against prejudice wherever we see it. It's about using our voices to speak up for change, to support people who are being marginalized, and to really try to build a more inclusive and compassionate world.
Yeah, and to remember that life is precious and way too short sometimes, and we should try to make the most of it, just like the Vivienne did.
Well, you put that perfectly. So before we go, I'd like to leave you with one final thought, something to think about. How do you think the Vivienne's honesty, their openness about their struggles, helped to remove the stigma around things like addiction and create a more understanding space for LGBTQ plus people who are going through similar things? It's something to consider as we move forward and keep the Vivienne spirit alive.
Their light will continue to shine bright, inspiring creativity and acceptance, both within the drag world and beyond. Rest in power, the Vivienne.